Ever wonder what a medieval swipe right looked like? Did people in the 1300s ever agonize over who to ghost after a bad first date? When you are scrolling through profiles on your phone, searching for that special someone, how did medieval folks find their match without Wi-Fi, without even a printing press, let alone an app store? Turns out they had their own intricate, fascinating, and often quite public ways of connecting. Forget algorithm. These were real-world social networks, intricate dating rituals, and sometimes simply a lot of people watching. Get ready to explore the original dating apps from a time long, long ago. Number 1. The Village Well and Market Square. Forget private messages and anonymous browsing. In medieval times, if you wanted to meet someone, you often had to show up, and there were few places more central, more buzzing with daily life than the village well or the bustling market square. This was the ultimate low-tech, high-traffic dating app. It was a place where everyone gathered, a true community hub. Picture the scene. The sun climbs high, casting long shadows as farmers bring in their produce. Merchants hawk their wares, and the chatter of 100 conversations fills the air. The well, often situated prominently, served as the primary water source for the entire community. Women usually would come to draw water, sometimes several times a day. This wasn't just about hydration. It was a daily social appointment. They would linger, exchanging gossip, sharing news, and crucially noticing who else was around. A young man, perhaps helping his father at a nearby stall or just passing through, would have a prime opportunity to observe. He might make eye contact, offer a polite greeting, or even help carry a heavy bucket. These were the subtle signals, the original pokes and likes. A lingering glance, a shared laugh over a vendor's antics, a quiet word about the weather. There was no direct match button, but a series of repeated interactions at the well or market could certainly spark interest. Historians often refer to these spaces as vital for informal social interactions, a far cry from the formalized courtships of the nobility, but no less significant for the vast majority of the population. A young woman might choose to come at a certain time, knowing a particular young man was also likely to be there. A young man might deliberately extend his errands to catch a glimpse of someone who caught his eye. The market square itself was an even larger canvas for these interactions. On market days, people from surrounding villages would flock in, bringing new faces and fresh opportunities. A farmer's son from a neighboring hamlet might spot a weaver's daughter from another, and a casual inquiry about the price of eggs could lead to a longer conversation about the long walk home. The noise and crowds provided a natural cover for discreet observations and shy exchanges. These were not places for grand declarations. They were spaces for quiet noticing, for the slow burn of attraction that came from repeated, casual encounters. Marriage records from many medieval villages often show unions between individuals from the same or closely neighboring communities, a testament to the power of these shared public spaces. The village well and market square were the ultimate see and be seen platforms, where daily necessities paved the way for potential lifelong partnerships. Before the internet, before phones, before even widespread literacy, the church was the undisputed center of medieval life. It wasn't just a place for worship, it was the ultimate community hub, a social network, and for many, the closest thing they had to a dating app. If you wanted to meet eligible individuals, especially those who shared your values and lived nearby, the church was where you went. Every Sunday, and often on other holy days, the entire community gathered. This wasn't an optional activity. It was a fundamental part of existence. Men and women, young and old, rich and poor, all converged under the same roof. This forced proximity, week after week, created countless opportunities for observation and interaction. People dressed in their best, at least their best clean clothes, a subtle form of profile presentation. They sat, they stood, they knelt, all within sight of potential partners. Beyond the regular services, the church hosted a myriad of other events. Feast days, saints' days, baptisms, funerals, and even certain community meetings all happened on church grounds or within the church building. These events often extended beyond solemn prayer to include communal meals, processions, or even sanctioned recreational activities. A young man might find himself next to a young woman during a long sermon, leading to a whispered exchange or a shared hymnal. After the service, people lingered in the churchyard, catching up on news, discussing the sermon, and yes, looking around. This was the moment for more direct, albeit still modest, interactions. A father might subtly point out a potential match to his son, or a mother might guide her daughter towards a conversation with a family she deemed suitable. Church also played a direct role in regulating relationships. Marriages were sacred rites, performed by priests and subject to canon law. Before a marriage could take place, banns were often read in the church for 3 consecutive Sundays. This public announcement served as a kind of community-wide background check, allowing anyone who knew of an impediment, like a pre-existing betrothal or a forbidden degree of kinship, to speak up. While seemingly a barrier, this public declaration also served to solidify a couple's intentions in the eyes of the community, turning a private agreement into a public acknowledgement. It was a social vetting process, ensuring that potential unions were sound and acceptable to the wider society. Beyond direct interaction, the church fostered a sense of community and shared values, which was essential for medieval relationships. Kailitas wasn't just about personal attraction. It was about shared faith, shared social standing, and shared community ties. The church provided the very framework for these connections, acting as the ultimate matchmaker, supervisor, and endorser of unions. It offered a constant, regular space for individuals to see and be seen, to interact subtly, and to ultimately find their place within the social fabric, often leading to a lifelong partnership. Number 3. The Guild and Apprentice Matchmaker. In the bustling towns and cities of medieval Europe, life revolved around trades and crafts. If you wanted to become a skilled artisan, a baker, a blacksmith, a tailor, a carpenter, you joined a guild. These powerful organizations governed industries, set standards, and provided social welfare for their members. But they also functioned as surprisingly effective, if often unspoken, dating apps, particularly for young men and women within the burgeoning merchant and artisan classes. Guilds were often structured like extended families. Apprentices, usually young boys, would live in the master craftsman's household, learning the trade from dawn till dusk. They were part of the family, sharing meals, chores, and the rhythm of daily life. The master's wife, his daughters, and sometimes even other female relatives would be part of this household. This constant proximity created a unique environment for observation and potential connections. A young apprentice, spending years under the same roof as the master's daughter, would have ample opportunity to demonstrate his character, work ethic, and future prospects. These were the true profile details that mattered. For a master craftsman, marrying his daughter to a skilled and promising apprentice was a highly advantageous move. It kept the trade within the family, ensured a successor, and prevented valuable skills and knowledge from leaving the guild. The apprentice, in turn, gained not just a wife, but also a direct path to inheriting the business or establishing his own with the master's support. This was a partnership that was as much about business and legacy as it was about love. Records from medieval towns often show a high number of marriages between masters' daughters and their apprentices or journeymen. It was a system built on practicality, but affection could certainly grow within such close quarters. Beyond the master-apprentice dynamic, guilds also fostered broader social connections among their members. Guilds held regular meetings, banquets, religious festivals, and sometimes even parades. These gatherings were not just for business. They were significant social events where members and their families interacted. A young woman whose father was a prosperous weaver might attend a guild feast and meet the son of a successful dyer. Shared professional interests, common economic standing, and a built-in network of trusted individuals made these connections highly desirable. Joining a guild was in essence joining a specialized social network. It provided a vetted pool of potential partners who shared similar backgrounds, social standing, and economic aspirations. For women, especially those in prosperous urban households, marriage within the guild network often meant maintaining their social position and even gaining influence through their husband's trade. The guild, therefore, acted as a powerful, albeit informal, matchmaker, ensuring that unions served both personal desires and the crucial economic and social stability of the community. It was a system where your professional connections could very well lead to your most personal ones. Number 4. The dowry and land ledger. While many medieval encounters happened organically in markets or churches, a significant portion of matchmaking, especially among propertied families, was far more deliberate and well documented. Enter the dowry and land ledger, the medieval equivalent of a very serious, highly detailed financial profile on a dating app. This wasn't about swiping right on a charming smile. It was about cross-referencing assets, calculating potential returns, and securing futures. Marriage, particularly for the landed gentry, nobility, and wealthy merchant class, was a fundamental economic and political transaction. It was less about individual romantic inclination and more about solidifying alliances, acquiring land, consolidating wealth, and producing legitimate heirs. Parents, often with the help of family networks or professional matchmakers, were the primary architects of these unions. Their dating pool was based on a different kind of compatibility, economic solvency, and social standing. The dowry was a crucial element. This was a payment or transfer of property, goods, or money from the bride's family to the groom's or to the new couple upon marriage. It was the bride's contribution to the marriage, often intended to provide for her security and, in some cases, to compensate the groom for taking on the responsibility of a wife and her future children. The dowry was not just a lump sum. It could include land, livestock, furniture, clothing, or even future inheritances. Every item, every acre, every coin was meticulously recorded in ledgers, legal documents, and family archives. These ledgers were the profiles that parents scrutinized. Prospective groom's family would assess the dowry value carefully. Was it sufficient? Did it enhance their own family's holdings? Did it bring new territories or valuable resources? On the bride's side, her family would assess the groom's patrimony, his inheritance, his current holdings, his family's reputation and power. They were looking for a good return on investment for their daughter, ensuring her future security and social standing. This was less about personal chemistry and more about the chemistry of balance sheets. Negotiations could be lengthy and complex, involving lawyers, notaries, and sometimes even royal intervention for very high-stakes matches. Families would exchange letters, send emissaries, and consult records. The dating process involved comparing property titles, analyzing lineage, and poring over detailed inventories of goods. A land ledger might reveal that a certain family held contiguous lands to one's own, making a marriage highly desirable for consolidating territory. A dowry record might show a bride bringing significant liquid assets, perfect for expanding a merchant enterprise. While this system might seem cold and calculating by modern standards, it was the reality of medieval life for many. It ensured stability, protected family wealth, and maintained social order. Love might or might not develop after the marriage, but the marriage itself was often a carefully orchestrated fusion of two economic entities, meticulously documented in the dowry and land ledgers that served as the era's most serious matchmaking algorithm. Number 5. The Feast and Festival Network. Imagine a world where the biggest social events weren't kibuted online, but celebrated in the open air, with music, food, and throngs of people from all walks of life. This was the reality of medieval feasts and festivals, and they were without a doubt a vibrant dating app network for connecting potential partners. These weren't just parties, they were crucial communal gatherings that broke the monotony of daily life and provided prime opportunities for social interaction and display. Feasts could range from intimate celebrations in a lord's hall to massive open-air banquets marking important religious holidays or significant milestones, like a successful harvest. Festivals were even grander, often stretching over several days, incorporating religious processions, theatrical performances, competitive games, and lavish meals. Everyone attended, from peasants to nobles. Albeit often in separate areas or with different levels of access, these events were designed for public display. People would wear their finest clothes, even if finest meant simply their cleanest, most well-maintained tunic for a peasant. Nobles would parade in rich fabrics, elaborate headwear, and glittering jewels. This was the ultimate profile picture in action, a chance to showcase one's status, wealth, and general attractiveness. A young man could show off his strength in a wrestling match or his skill with a bow. A young woman could display her grace in a dance or her hospitality by helping serve at a communal table. The sheer volume of people attending these events meant a significantly expanded dating pool compared to the confines of a single village or market. People from neighboring communities who might otherwise never meet would come together. This created opportunities for entirely new connections to form. Chance encounter during a procession, a shared laugh during a jester's performance, or a moment of camaraderie over a shared tankard of ale could spark an initial interest. Music, dance, and storytelling were integral parts of these celebrations. These activities provided a structured yet informal way for people to interact physically and emotionally. Joining a circle dance, listening to a troubadour's ballad, or participating in a community game meant engaging with others in a relaxed, joyful atmosphere. It was a stark contrast to the more formal settings of church or the routine of daily labor. These moments of shared revelry could break down social barriers, if only for a short time, and allow for glimpses of personality beyond the usual constraints. While formal introductions were still important, particularly for higher social classes, feasts and festivals provided the less structured environment where initial attraction could blossom. They were the medieval equivalent of a massive social mixer, a place where people could observe, interact, and potentially identify someone special from the crowd. The sheer energy and celebratory mood often created a fertile ground for romance, making the Feast and Festival Network an undeniable powerhouse for medieval matchmaking. Number 6. The Bard and Troubadour's Ballad Board. In an age without mass media, the Bard and the Troubadour were the original influencers, the storytellers, and surprisingly, a kind of medieval ballad board for romantic expressions. These traveling entertainers with their lutes and their lyrical verses didn't just sing about ancient heroes or religious parables. They often became conduits for personal messages, public declarations, and even subtle pings of interest between potential lovers. Bards and troubadours were skilled poets and musicians who wandered from castle to castle, village to village, entertaining audiences with their performances. They were welcomed for the news and entertainment they brought, acting as living newspapers and pop culture purveyors. A significant part of their repertoire involved songs of courtly love, tales of chivalry, and ballads celebrating beauty and devotion. These romantic themes resonated deeply with medieval audiences, especially the nobility, who were often patrons of these artists. A knight smitten by a lady at court might commission a troubadour to compose a song in her honor. This wasn't just a private serenade, it was a public declaration, performed in the great hall during a feast or a gathering. The song would praise her beauty, her virtues, and the knight's undying devotion. This was the medieval equivalent of posting a grand poetic status update for everyone to see. The lady, upon hearing her praises sung, would understand the message loud and clear, and so would everyone else in attendance. It was a way for a suitor to signal his intentions and his admiration, putting himself forward without a direct, potentially awkward verbal approach. Conversely, a lady might also use the bard's services. Perhaps she would subtly encourage a particular bard to include a verse in his next performance that hinted at her preferences. Or perhaps she would send a coded message through a song choice. These were indirect but powerful forms of communication, understood by those in the know and creating a buzz of anticipation and speculation among the courtly observers. It was a sophisticated game of veiled messages and public performance, all orchestrated through the medium of music and poetry. Beyond courtly love, bards also facilitated communication in more common settings. A young man in a village might not have the courage or the means to approach a young woman directly, but he might pay a local minstrel to sing a specific folk song known to be associated with romantic interest, perhaps even dedicating it subtly. The minstrel, acting as a discreet messenger, could convey feelings that words alone might struggle to express. The ballad board was therefore not a physical board, but a shared cultural space where emotions and intentions could be publicly expressed through the art of storytelling and song. It allowed for grand romantic gestures that were both public and personal, creating a thrilling layer of intrigue to the medieval dating landscape. It was a powerful tool for broadcasting one's romantic desires and receiving subtle responses, all through the beautiful ancient medium of music and verse. Number 7. The royal court and noble salon. For the medieval elite, finding a match was rarely a matter of chance encounters or personal chemistry. It was a meticulously orchestrated affair, often driven by political strategy, economic power, and dynastic ambition. The royal court and the noble salon were the ultimate high-stakes dating apps, where every interaction was observed, every alliance weighed, and every potential union scrutinized for its strategic value. Life at court was a constant performance. Nobles, aspiring knights, and ladies-in-waiting all revolved around the monarch, seeking favor, influence, and suitable marriages. These environments were filled with elaborate rituals, formal dances, grand banquets, and carefully staged tournaments. Every gathering was an opportunity for families to showcase their eligible sons and daughters. Young men would display their prowess in jousts or their intellectual wit in debates. Young women would exhibit their accomplishments in needlework, music, or their ability to manage a household. These were the profile details that truly mattered at this level. The court itself was a highly controlled social network. Access was often restricted, creating an exclusive user base. Everyone knew everyone else, or at least knew of them and their family's standing. Gossip and observation were rampant. A subtle glance across a crowded hall, a brief whispered conversation during a dance, or a carefully delivered compliment could be noted by dozens of onlookers, then dissected and discussed later. Mothers and fathers of eligible children were constantly on the lookout, acting as their children's primary account managers. Matchmaking at court was frequently initiated by parents, or even by the monarch themselves. Royal marriages in particular were paramount for forging alliances between kingdoms, securing peace treaties, or expanding territories. A princess might be betrothed in infancy to a foreign prince she had never met, purely for gentle reasons. These negotiations involved diplomats, extensive correspondence, and careful consideration of genealogies, dowries, and succession lines. It was less about personal choice and more about national interest, even for lower-ranking nobles. Marriage within the courtly sphere was crucial for maintaining or elevating one's status. A strategic marriage could bring wealth, land, or patronage from a powerful family. Young nobles were often sent to serve as pages or ladies-in-waiting in powerful households, specifically to gain exposure to the court and to be seen by potential suitors and their families. This was a deliberate placement strategy, a way of getting one's child into the most exclusive social circle available. While romantic love might sometimes blossom within these arranged unions, the primary driver was always power and prestige. The royal court and noble salon provided a highly structured, intensely scrutinized environment where marriages were not just personal events but political maneuvers, meticulously planned and executed to secure the future of families, dynasties, and even entire nation. It was the ultimate power dating platform of the medieval world. Number 8. The Chivalric Code and Tournament Challenge. Long before dating profiles featured pictures of people flexing at the gym or pouting their adventurous hobbies, medieval knights had the ultimate performance-based dating app, the Chivalric Code and the Tournament Challenge. This wasn't about subtle glances or dowry negotiations. It was a loud, dramatic, and often dangerous display of valor, skill, and devotion, designed to capture the attention and admiration of noble ladies. The Chivalric Code was an idealized set of values that knights were supposed to uphold. It emphasized courage, honor, loyalty, courtesy, and protection of the weak, especially women. While not every knight lived up to these lofty ideals, the code provided a framework for how a knight should present himself, especially to prospective romantic interests. A knight's reputation for bravery in battle, his generosity, and his courteous demeanor were his primary profile attributes. Tournaments were the grand stages for these displays. These elaborate events, ranging from mock battles to jousting contests, were essentially medieval sporting events and social spectacles rolled into one. Lords and ladies would gather from far and wide, dressed in their finest attire, to witness the spectacle. For a knight, participating in a tournament was a chance to prove his worth, not just as a warrior, but as an eligible suitor. A knight would often devote himself to a particular lady, carrying her favor, a ribbon, a scarf, or a piece of cloth into the lists. This was a very public declaration of his admiration, and a sign that he was competing in her honor. As he rode into the joust, his armor gleaming, his lance held high, he was effectively sending a direct message to the lady in the stands. This courage, this strength, this skill, it is all for you. Every successful tilt, every shattered lance, every unseated opponent was a testament to his prowess and his devotion. It was the medieval equivalent of a viral video Mo-trained peak athletic performance, all for a specific audience. Ladies seated in privileged positions would observe the action closely. They would cheer for their chosen champions, and a well-performed feat of arms could certainly earn a knight her favorable attention. A lady might even reward a victorious knight by bestowing a kiss, a flower, or another token of appreciation. This public acknowledgement, however subtle, was a significant like or match in the eyes of the court, elevated the knight's status, and signaled his desirability. Beyond the joust, the chivalric ideal permeated courtly interactions. Knights would perform acts of gallantry, write love poetry, or engage in witty conversation, all aimed at impressing noble women. Concept of courtly love, where a knight would idealize and serve a lady, often unrequited or from afar, was a powerful romantic trope that shaped these interactions. It provided a framework for elaborate, often symbolic, courtship rituals. The chivalric code and the tournament challenge were more than just entertainment. They were the ultimate arenas where medieval masculinity was performed and evaluated, where a knight's public display of courage and devotion served as his most compelling argument for a lady's affection.